Everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Buckshots. We're here talking Game 7, which I think, we're going to get that in what, 3 hours, 15 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
2:30 game time, Milwaukee, Boston, Game 7. The reason the series is Game 7, Boston beat Milwaukee in Milwaukee during Game 6. With that score being, I got to pull it up here. With that score being 108-95, and of course that was after a win that the Bucks kind of stole in Boston in Game 5, winning 110-107. I guess just to go over the rest of the games. Game 4, Boston took 116-108. Game 3, Milwaukee took 103-101. Game 2, 109-86 Boston. And Game 1, 101-89 Milwaukee. So I guess, Trevor, just to get right into it, I know, coworker of ours, Henry, he had asked me and you before we came on, what's our confidence level in Game 7? And we both replied with 1 and 0 out of 10. And so I'm going to guess, I'm going to assume based on, that answer, you're in the mindset that this game may be more like Game 6 as opposed to Game 1.
I think it's more of a formality, to be honest. The Bucks are a great team. They have Giannis, but again, what we saw kind of like last year in the Brooklyn series, Mike Budenholzer seems to be in his head, or he doesn't listen to his assistant coaches, or assistant coaches don't speak up. Game 5, he had great tactics going to the comeback. That was fantastic, but the Celtics also choked. And you look at Game 4, Bobby Portis played 15 minutes in a game where effort was kind of the difference maker in that fourth quarter that they blew the lead. And then in Game 6, he plays George Hill for how many minutes when Javon Carter, in the few minutes he has a better plus minus than anybody in the second round of the playoffs at plus 23. So just looking at the decisions he's making, I just, even though he's done it in the past, I don't put stock. I don't believe he's going to be able to do it in Game 7. I don't know what he's thinking, but I just don't trust in him to make the right calls, and that's going to be the difference.
And I totally agree with you. That was something that I was going to actually bring up, was the George Hill, Javon Carter kind of thing. I understand bringing George Hill back because he has to be a part of this team if you want to win a championship. But to not even play Javon Carter is wild, considering how well he played, against Chicago and in the early games against Boston. And as weird as it is, it almost feels like, at least in these playoffs, Javon Carter's bringing a little bit more on offense than George Hill. We know what Javon Carter can do on defense. We know what George Hill can do on defense. But I think, the factor that kind of separates them there is the offense, right?
Yeah, and another guy too, and I don't know if it's in this series, but Serge Ibaka. I just don't understand why you bring these guys, have them play solid roles, and then don't play them at all. I'm fine with not playing Serge Ibaka 15 minutes a game. But if you're going to add him to the team, if you're going to trade for him, if you're going to do all this stuff for him and Javon Carter, I don't understand why you're not putting him out there, especially when, George Hill's averaging a triple single in terms of 1 point, 1 rebound, 1 assist, and getting torched every time down the court.
Yeah, and the thing is too, Serge Ibaka and Javon Carter both, kind of made their mark in the NBA on defense. I'm not saying that the Bucks haven't been playing defense, because they're not. Boston isn't scoring more than 110 on nights. I know that's 110 is a lot, but in relation to the regular season, it's really not. Boston is just shooting the lights out right now. That's something that we talked about in the last show. That could be a killer. But just to speak on that real quick, does it feel like there's a lot of shooters that are wide open every time a shot goes up for Boston?
Yeah, yes and no. Like Boston it just doesn't make a lot of sense. It feels like they're open, but it feels like the shots that they're hitting are more contested.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of talked about this offline. I believe in the fourth quarter when the Celtics made that miraculous comeback in Game 4, their true shooting percentage was 97%. You can't shoot much better than that, and they needed that because they won the game by 8 points.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just tough because we always say good shooting can't last for the whole series. But every single time the Celtics have gotten in trouble, they've been bailed out by their shooting. And that's not
Yep.
me saying they're not good, but it'll be interesting to see if, that trend continues Game 7.
For sure. I do think that Boston is a very good basketball team. I think they're playing better basketball than the Bucks are right now. Whether that takes into account all the shots they're making, or Bucks role players not stepping up and doing anything, whatever. But I mentioned this too, that it felt like Boston had just taken control of the series since the fourth quarter of Game 3. Um, and that just goes to show how huge of a win what was it, Game 5 was when Milwaukee
4, I
went in.
think.
Yeah,
Oh, 5, yeah.
when
5
Milwaukee
when
went
they
and
won.
stole it in the last 2 minutes there. But I mean, I think the thing that needs to, I mean, Chris Middleton would be great to have in the series, right? The the Bucks aren't shooting well. Outside of Giannis, you're not really. I mean, I'm not comfortable with anyone else really scoring right now other than Giannis. Um, so I guess Trevor, my question to you is there a certain is there someone you want to single out that needs to step up, or is it kind of just a collective effort for Game 7?
I think there are two people that need to step up. I think it's Bobby Portis, and I think it's Grayson Allen. I
Mm-hmm.
don't care, Bobby Portis. I don't even care about the offensive rebounds. I just need you to have offense of some sort. The thing that baffles me is that we have Mike Budenholzer, who everybody always praises, Darvin Ham, who's in the head coaching consideration. He's thought to have been that good for years. You have all these good coaches. They can't draw up a fucking offense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I get it's Boston. They're a good defense. You got Giannis leading the charge. Like, I expect some sort of motion since you have guys that can pick and pop and shoot the threes, something like a slower offense like Wisconsin did. I know you weren't a fan of them, but they had the defense to back it up, and that's why they
Mm-hmm.
were so good in some of those years. I just expect something to change. And the only thing that I'm seeing is the role players not stepping up and Giannis having to do everything. It's basically the 2019 Eastern Conference Finals against Toronto again.
I will say that if the Badgers had a player of Giannis's caliber, I would have liked that team. But you're right. Like about maybe Game 5 ish, I was thinking, this is starting to feel a lot like Toronto. Maybe even Game 4. Um, and then that win, the one that they stole in Boston, I thought, all right, that's just that's a turning point of the series. You're gonna get it back to Milwaukee. If they don't win, at least they're gonna put up a fight, which wasn't the case. The, the the thing that I've been saying for like the last 3 games, and Trevor, I'm sure you've been saying the same as me. If we can if we can cut their lead down to 7 going into the fourth quarter, I'll be happy. If you say that 5 games in a row, there's something wrong with the team that you're rooting for, right?
Yeah, this series to me feels a lot like the Nets Bucks series from last time, except the Bucks are the Nets.
Mm-hmm.
With the injuries, Bucks having the lead, and the Celtics coming back here would be like how it ended last year. Yeah, it's just tough because I know what's going to happen is everybody's going to talk about Giannis choking because he's not a closer.
Mm-hmm.
You can't expect this man to be everything. There has been no player in history that has done everything and been a closer. Even Michael Jordan, he was a closer. We saw what he was the first 5 years of his career. He wasn't
Mm-hmm.
exactly a closer there either. So, everything's asked of him, and it's going to be sad because nobody else steps up. The narrative is going to be, Giannis kind of get it done, and that's a sad thing to see.
Yeah, and so the thing, I guess the silver lining in all of this is they won the championship last year, right? So there's not that monkey over your head that you're still 50 years waiting for a championship. Um, to me, it's really hard to say this, but of course there's gonna be some bias behind it. If the Bucks have Chris Middleton, they're the best team in the NBA, right? If they're all playing, I mean, of course, if they're all playing well, yada yada. But without Chris Middleton, the Bucks don't look good on offense at all, especially those 30-second breaks that Giannis takes. It just ends up, Wes Matthews driving in on Jason Tatum, or Drew Holiday going in on 4 guys and getting blocked. I mean, it's hard to think of a time this series that the Bucks have scored without Giannis on the court, which is obviously something that needs to change.
The thing for me that's tough is I don't know. I'm going to take it a different direction. I think the Bucks are so good with Chris Middleton that without him they don't look good. Like they haven't looked good this series,
Mm-hmm.
but I think one of the big things is the Celtics have found their rhythm. They got Robert Williams back. This is the second best team in the East right now.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing the Bucks having a 3-2 series lead, winning 2 road games, going to Game 7 without Chris Middleton itself is insane. I know I
Mm-hmm.
said before the series they'd lose in 6 if they were lucky.
Yep.
Um, so it's so tough to read. I think it's the big test is ironically going to be seeing however the winner of this game does in the next series.
Hmm.
Because I think the Heat are overrated. So if the Bucks or the Celtics beat the Heat in 6 games, I think that'll change a lot. But if they get ran by the Heat, then that'll be an interesting storyline too.
For sure. And then just kind of circling back to maybe someone that needs to step up or kind of an adjustment that needs to be made. I mean, Wes Matthews needs to stay locked on Jason Tatum. He can't help off. He can't do anything. In my mind, the only thing that Wes Matthews needs to do this game is prevent Jason Tatum from getting the ball. Whether that be at the cost of his offensive game, which is fine in my mind. But if you can hold Jason Tatum to I'll say under 20 points, I think the Bucks have a good shot of winning this game.
Absolutely. And the thing, I agree with you too. I don't understand. I understand help defense. I
Hmm.
understand the thought behind it. In this, I don't. We talked about it before the series. The Celtics role players are not going to beat you. I
Right.
think Peyton Pritchard helped one game. But if you, like, let's say you go one on one with Tatum, you stick on him, he doesn't get the ball as much. Are you really that worried about Grant Williams one on one, or Al Horford one on one, or
No.
Jaylen Brown even one on one? Like, no, like you have great individual defenders for that reason. So when they help off like that, I'm just wondering what they're watching for the first 6 games, because it was clear in both the last 2 series, if Jason Tatum isn't going, this team is in big trouble because Marcus Smart will not be able to carry you every night.
And I just wanted to bring up Marcus Smart here. Okay, so he won Defensive Player of the Year. I don't know if we talked about that. We may have. I guess I don't remember what our answers were. But after watching this series, and I mean, the series doesn't count into Defensive Player of the Year award. But is Marcus Smart the Defensive Player of the Year?
No, and it's
No.
not even close. Like he's a good defender. He's an above average defender. But anybody that literally flops at every time, and it's the NBA, regular season isn't under as much scrutiny. Flops are called more. It's about time we look back at the film and look back at those stats. And it's the same thing as Jokic. Jokic's metrics were fantastic.
Hmm.
You can't look at him on the court, especially him on defense, and say he's the most valuable player in the year. It's just not. It's just not possible. I don't care what he doesn't have. If he is a liability on defense, he cannot be the most valuable player in the league.
Yeah, there's a reason that the Nuggets were the 6th seed, and I know Jamal Murray and Michael Porter been out for so long. But if you're an MVP, it feels like you should be able to get a top 3, top 4 seed in the West, right?
Yeah.
But I've been starting to make the argument that Marcus Smart is a better offensive player than defensive player, at least in this series.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think he's that good of an offensive player, but when it's mattered, he's coming big. I know game 6 and game 4, especially. I mean, call it luck, call it skill. In a 7-game series, it really doesn't matter as long as you get the job done. And
Hmm.
to this point, outside of that disastrous game 5 ending, he's been solid.
Yeah. So let's talk about the game coming up here again. I guess Trevor, what's the key? What are the key? What's the keys? What are you going to be looking towards for the Bucks to win this game?
I'm going to be looking for energy, right? You're on the
Hmm.
road. You were up 3-2. You lost. You got embarrassed at home, quite simply. Um, I want to see the energy. I don't want to see any bullshit like quiet guy act. Like, I understand that move, like cool, calm, and collected. It's game 7, and the winner probably goes to the NBA Finals and probably wins the NBA Finals.
Hmm.
Like, you're on the road. You guys got to hype each other up. I don't want to see calm Bobby. I want to see some scrum started smartly, right?
Hmm.
I want to see some fire. So I'm looking at Bobby Portis. I'm looking at Giannis to be smart, mean mug the crowd, just not the other player. I'm looking to see what fire they bring. Because once that crowd gets going in Boston, and it's going to eventually, if you're cool, calm, and collected, that will tear you apart.
Yeah, I totally agree. Um, I mean, it would almost be okay. So when Grayson Allen was on Duke, right, everyone hated him because white kid who he felt entitled and he's tripping players and doing shit. I almost kind of want him to do that this game.
Yes,
Um, you
yes,
know, it,
absolutely.
it feels like Grayson Allen needs to mix it up a little bit. He needs to kind of get that hate back on him that we saw in the Chicago series. That's kind of gone by the wayside as it feels like it's been months since he last made a three. But you're right. The energy needs to be there. Boston, whatever you want to say about their fans, I mean, they're passionate. I mean, Boston, through all 4 of their sports, they win a lot of championships. I mean, the fans are championship hungry. This is going to be a hostile game. It's going to be a hostile environment. I mean, this is what you grow like when you're growing up playing basketball in your driveway. This is what you imagine doing. Um, I'm happy you brought up that Nets series because this does feel a lot like the Nets last year. Um, I don't know. I'm in the same boat with you. I mean, Giannis is probably going to go for 40 this game. He probably, I would say probably 40, 15, and maybe 8 or 9. That's if the role players are hitting. If the role players are hitting, Giannis gets 9 assists. I do think the Bucks win this game. It almost seems to me that this game needs to start off with Giannis distributing as opposed to scoring, right?
Yeah. And, speaking of that intensity, I'm just thinking in short spurts, like for 30 seconds, maybe in each quarter, if you take Giannis out, put Thanasis in.
Yep.
I need somebody to keep the team hungry. Like, he is going to be such a liability on both sides of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
But god damn it, I mean, sometimes you have to make the moves. But yeah, I mean, environment's going to be crazy, but I can imagine nothing better than if the Bucks were to take 5, 7, and 1 in Boston. That
Yeah.
would be so beautiful.
Yeah. So Trevor, before we hopped on here, I asked you, if there's anything you wanted to talk about. You mentioned maybe some things that you learned through this series for this game. Is there anything that you want to bring up that maybe we haven't talked about yet?
I to me, I think obviously we solidified Giannis the best player in the league, and it's not even close. I think the thing that we also solidified is Drew is a sensational defender.
Mm-hmm.
I think the thing that gets a little overlooked, I don't know, this is going to be a hot take. I don't know offensively, at least this year, this playoffs, if Drew Holiday is that much better than what Eric Bledsoe was. Like, we talk about Brooklyn game 7 last year. He was trash until the last 2 minutes. Had 2 good games against Atlanta, which I'm sorry, it's Atlanta. 1 good game against the Suns, awesome. But this year against the Bulls, didn't really show up too much. It was the other guys. Against the Celtics, he had 1 game he shot pretty well, but I mean, he wasn't the reason for that win. He's a great player. He's a clear upgrade over Eric Bledsoe, what he was, but it's just the same story over and over again, and it's frustrating because he's way better than this.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you on that take. I said it last year. I'm an Eric Bledsoe guy, so of course I was getting that narrative going a little bit. But I will say Drew Holiday is a better player than Eric Bledsoe. But over and over, it just feels like this guy he Drew Holiday he penetrates great and then ends up triple teamed and gets blocked. It feels like that happens 3, 4, 5, even 6 times a game. Well, it's great to get in the paint. At some point, you guys either have to make a layup or get a foul. And when's the last time Drew Holiday shot free throws?
Yeah, and the other thing is he's so physical, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
we've seen him in the post against Giannis even in practice. He's good there. I just don't understand why he's not in the post more. I
Right.
understand they have some trees in there, but if you have a guard in there, like make suction the bigs out for once, just try something, right? Use that size to his advantage. I don't think they're going to call flops in the post on Drew Holiday. On Giannis, yeah. On Drew Holiday, I doubt it. I just don't understand why you don't try attacking that once.
Yeah, and I guess that kind of ties into another thing that I want to bring up. You need today. You need to get guys to the line other than Giannis. Giannis just dominated the free throw line for the Bucks. I think the Bucks shot. I had it written down somewhere. 19 free throws or something last game, and Giannis shot 15 of them, or maybe 18, and Giannis shot 15 of them. Something. It's wild that we can't get any more penetration other than Giannis. I understand that Giannis's game is predicated on penetration, but you know what I mean. And one more thing, Trevor. I guess my question for you: how many threes do you want to see Giannis take this game?
I
Or I
mean,
guess
it depends.
I should say what's the cap of being too much? Obviously, depending on the game script, but
Depending on if he makes them, obviously. I think the
yep.
cap off the bat is probably 4. If he makes 1 of 4, you give him an extra one. If he hits 2 of 5, give him an extra one. Like stuff like that, because he'll need to take some and he'll need to make one, but
Mm-hmm.
you got to cap it. But and on top of that too, it's tough because if you start shooting jump shots, the Bucks are going to get even less free throws, which is
Mm-hmm.
wild because the Celtics took 38 threes and took more free throws than us last game. So that concerns me too.
It sure does. Trevor, I got some underdog stuff pulled up here. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we do this?
just we're gonna see the grit, right? They've surprised us before game one. They surprised us in game five. They're gonna have to pull some shit out of their hat. But I will say, after the shooting in the Deer District, and prayers go out to everybody affected, like I kind of said offline, this is that shit that doesn't make sense, but usually you just see something you can't explain
Hmm.
in the realm of possibility come from it. I'm wondering if that's going to happen. If the Bucks come out hot and, just something that you can't explain, another game that goes down in NBA lore is just what the hell did we just see?
Yeah, and you had mentioned NBA lore. I think the series already goes down in NBA lore. I mean, if Jason Tatum's with Boston his whole career, this is the start to the Giannis Jason Tatum. I mean, everyone's been looking. What's the rivalry going to be? Giannis James Harden, Giannis Steph Curry. I mean, this is it, right? Giannis Jason Tatum.
Absolutely.
So to get into some underdog stuff, there's a ton of picks on here for underdog promo code Flurry. Um, I'll just touch on some big ones here. We'll start Jason Tatum, 43.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. I will say that they have his points, another option of his points at 30.5 over under. But for the 43.5, Trevor, over under Jason Tatum.
I'm going to go over because
Yep.
even if he's shooting bad, they know they have to force feed him.
Yep. This is game 7. Stars are going to come out and play. Let's do Jaylen Brown, 24.5 points.
I'm going to go under.
Me too. I'll throw another one. A thorn in Buck's sides for the last decade is Al Horford, 11.5 points.
When is this old ass going to retire or get worse? He's so slow. It makes no sense how he's still good.
I know.
Um,
He shoots like this, Trevor.
yeah. What was the line again?
11.5
points.
Yeah.
I have a bad feeling he's going to be over,
I'm
even
gonna
though he
take the
doesn't
over.
deserve it.
I'm gonna guess that he hits three first quarter threes.
That would make sense for Bucks.
Mm-hmm. Marcus Smart's got a ton of them on here. I think the most interesting one, though, just based off the last game, is 2.5 3-pointers over under.
Oh, I'm taking over. I think he's
too.
chucking those things up.
He's at least shooting 6 or 7 this game.
And he's a heat check guy. If he wants to try to extend the lead and break him, he's going to shoot him. If he wants to get back in the game, he's going to try to shoot him.
Yep. Derek White, 9.5 points. I'm going to take the under on this.
That's weird. I'm taking under. I don't think he gets that enough minutes even.
That's what I was going to say. I don't know how much benches are utilized in this game.
Yeah.
And I'm here. We'll just throw in one that I would not bet on, but Grant Williams, 4 rebounds.
Over. He has to. If they don't, the Bucks are winning the game. I'm assuming.
So let's go to the guy that Grant Williams is probably guarding, Giannis. 55.5 points, rebounds, and assists.
It's got to be over. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. What do you think is going to end up?
I think it's probably going to be like 38, at least 38 points, at least 12 rebounds. So right there is 50.
Mm-hmm.
And probably,
I
think 4 assists, but I think the points and rebounds are going to be up higher. But that's the minimum in my opinion.
Do you think he could get 70? Not 70 points, 70 points plus rebounds plus assists.
I think it's definitely possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's possible. I could see like a 50, 15, and 10 almost.
Yeah. So they have his over-under points at 35.5. Over. Like I said, I think 40. Here'd be the second leading scorer for the Bucks, Drew Holiday, with 20.5.
It's tough because he's shown up like in clutch times in games.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still going under. I can't trust him for a full 48 minutes.
I think I'm going to take the over here. I think
it's so tough.
I know. If benches aren't used as much as maybe the last couple games, Drew Holiday's taking at least 25 shots.
He better fucking hit 20.5 points if he's taking 20 shots.
Right. We had brought up Bobby Portis. I'll give you a twofer. 11.5 points and 9 rebounds. 2 separate ones.
Points.
I'm going to go
over.
Yep.
Rebounds under.
Yep.
Probably.
Wes Matthews, I'm taking under 6 points.
I'll take over. I think he gets 2 threes and some cheap, layup or free throw.
Okay. And then Brook Lopez, 7.5 points.
God. What is oh man. He needs to start dunking again, like on people. Probably under because he's not shooting as many threes anymore.
I think I agree with you. This feels like a Brook Lopez 4 points kind of game for me. 4 early points, and we don't see him for the rest of the game.
I'm surprised the Bucks haven't started chucking up threes with Brook a little more.
You know,
Like, I don't think it's going to work, right? You need the bodies inside, but I mean, shit, you're not getting the scoring anywhere else.
right? So you took the under on those 7.5 points for Brook
Yeah.
Lopez. I assume. So okay, so his points plus rebounds is 12. Let's say you take the under, maybe scores 4 points. Does Brook Lopez get 9 rebounds?
No, too many
Yeah,
bodies.
yeah, don't think so either. And then we'll go out with the last two here. Grayson Allen 7 points.
Under. I don't trust this man.
I don't
I
either.
hope so.
I'm going to take the over. I think he hits at least 3 threes today. And then Pat Connaughton 10.5 points.
Over. He's been the best player in the series outside of Giannis, unfortunately.
I think I agree with you. But in terms of the game, Trevor, let's give some predictions, some scores. Who do you think? I mean, our answer for who do you think is going to do the most for the Bucks can be Giannis, but I guess
Yeah.
score predictions. Bucks are currently favored by 5 points, I believe.
Or the Celtics are, you mean?
Or the Celtics
right?
are favored by
Yeah.
5, and over under is at 205.5.
You would think the shooting that the Celtics are doing would stop in terms of contested, but I just don't see a stop in sight. I think 116, 105 Celtics. I think they're always kind of ahead, and then we hit the free throw game when they're up 6 with like a minute left, and that, gets it out of hand.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to go with. I do think it's a lower scoring game, just because I think guys are going to be dog tired come third and fourth quarter. I'll throw 105-99 Boston. This will be a fun game. It's game 7, right? Two
Fun
best
for
words,
who?
two best words in sports. It's gonna be fun for people who aren't Bucks or Celtics fans.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, to me, to win this game is we can't be in a spot where fans are thinking, all right, cut this down to 7 by the fourth quarter and we'll be looking good. You have to have, you have to be leading at some point in the third quarter for me to feel comfortable, or not even to feel comfortable, to feel a lot better than I have the rest of the series.
If they ever, I think if they ever get down by double digits at any point, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
I think if the Bucks are up 10 or double digits with 6 minutes or less remaining, which isn't that bold,
Mm-hmm.
I think they also win because Boston will be tired. They'll be chucking up shit. I don't think you can come back from that in that amount of time against Giannis.
Totally agree. And I will say, who else probably thinks this is a fun game? Is the Miami Heat players.
Yeah.
I'm sure they are going to watch this game with joy as
I hate them so much.
as Milwaukee and Boston have just beat the fuck out of each other all series. Here I thought Miami was going to get a sweep, but I mean they're a little more rested than the Bucks or Celtics are going to be. But I saw a tweet. I'll bring this up before we go. Are Milwaukee and Boston the two best teams left in the playoffs?
That's tough. Going into the playoffs, I honestly don't, and I still don't think Boston is that great of a team. I think they're really good defensively, but again, I don't think they're role players. I just think they match up very well against the Bucks without Middleton.
Mm-hmm.
As of now, looking at it, I think the only one I can maybe say is better than Boston right now is Golden State if they're hitting threes. They have no size, but
Right.
if they're hitting threes, the only team that can beat them is the Bucks. So at the lowest, probably third right now.
Hey, shout out Kevon Looney though. He got 22 rebounds last game.
Also, last thing real quick, I see that it looks like Robert Williams is out for this game, which is massive. I think. I don't know. I
Yes,
thought he'd be
is.
a bigger indicator of I thought when he'd be out, the Bucks would crush him. He's been out the last 2 games. The Celtics have won both. So who the hell? What do I know?
Agreed. And I guess I forgot to bring up injuries, but I mean it's just a normal. Chris Middleton's out. Sam Hauser, Wisconsin native, is out with a shoulder injury. And the score has Robert Williams listed as game time decision, but I thought I saw on Twitter this morning that he was out.
ESPN says he's out, so we'll see.
Yeah. But I mean, on that note, Trevor, anything else you want to bring up? Anything else you want to mention?
God, why do we always find ourselves in this position, man? We can never win anything easy. Like, when was the last time we had an easy playoff win outside of the first round? Boston? And even then we lost the first game at home in a drubbing 3 years ago.
Right. I will say that in our group chat, our fearless leader Zach just brought up Bucks consistently cover on the road. So do they cover that 5-point spread? Who knows? But they never cover at home. So obviously that has nothing to do with this game. But Trevor, you said that you were kind of in the idea of the Bucks may cover, but won't necessarily win the game.
It's either going to be like 3 points or they're going to lose by double digits. I don't think there's any in between.
Totally agree with you. On that note, I think we're out of here. I don't know if we're gonna have another show after this.
We'll probably have one in the off season.
Yeah, but hopefully we have more. Right? Bucks win. We'll at least get more through June.
So if you're watching, wear your lucky socks, put on your lucky underwear. I don't know. Do whatever you need to do.
Mm-hmm. Go back and listen to some other shows too. For what I usually plug at the end because I can't really think of it right now, and I'm really only thinking about the Bucks. So on that note, everyone enjoy Game 7. Let us know. Flurry Sports on Twitter. This is broadcasting right now. Go back and put some final score predictions in there. See who gets the closest. It's always fun to predict before the games. But on that note, I mean, we're out of here. Follow us on Twitter at Luke Rhyme at Trevor Land 2, and I'm sure we'll be tweeting out some opinions during the game, and you can follow along. And please let us know what you're thinking of the game too. We'd happy to interact with everyone on Twitter. But on that note, Trevor, I think we're out of here.
Yep. Have a good one.
Yep. Go Bucks.